Do a short introduction.
Sure.
We want to thank Senator Steve Sweeney for joining us today at the Packet Media Group. We have editors from the various Packet papers, and again, thank you, Senator, for coming in. And certainly we know that you have been instrumental in trying to get a health care benefit for state workers. I thought maybe you'd want to introduce
Thank
the
you.
group to that and talk to that. We've had some correspondence today from the governor saying that he's wants to see health care benefits equalized with the private sector, and I think your plan is a little bit different, so if you could
Well, I appreciate
tell us
it.
about that a little
The
bit.
plan that I'm talking about is basically going back to what it was like when I was growing up, having a relationship with your doctor, primary care focused. And actually, you're actually starting to see a whole lot of advertisement, businesses popping up, patient care, facilities that are popping up on their own where it's not fee for service. What we're focusing on is right now we have fee for service. So if you call your doctor up and the flu's going around, the doctor's going to say, come in. If you work under this plan, you call your doctor up, you say, look, I got these symptoms. He says, you got the flu. I'll call in a script. Because the doctor, under our circumstances now, gets paid to see you. So reestablishing a relationship with your primary care doctor where he spends more than 6 or 8 minutes with you, because that's how they break this down. They break it down into minutes, how long they can spend with you as a patient, because they get paid for the volume. Well, rather than volume, we want to focus on quality of care, because 84 cents of every dollar spent in healthcare is chronic disease. It's diabetes, it's heart disease, it's high blood pressure. They're diseases that are all preventable with just proper healthcare management. So, again, under this circumstance, you would go see your doctor, and you sit down, and he has a screen in front of him. And he'd say, hey, Charlie, how come you didn't fill your cholesterol medication? You never filled your script. How come? You need it. You need to get your blood work done. You need to do this. They manage your health care. And, so when you're going in there, they know what you're doing and what you're not doing. So managing your health care issues are critical. We were at the Children's Specialty Hospital in New Brunswick, and what they were saying there, on a different subject, we were there for a chip. And when we were there, the doctors were talking about the frustration they have with getting their patients to really manage their health care better. Now, the savings comes about because you're dealing with your primary care doctor more. You're not going to specialists as much. If you need them, you go to them. But if you can prevent getting into a situation where you need a specialist, that's best. So the savings comes in reduced ER visits, specialist visits, and actually doctor visits. That's where the savings really comes into. And it really goes back to a day when doctors weren't business people, they were doctors. Primary care doctors, when we announced this, somebody from Rutgers said the big hurdle in this is you can't get doctors. Well, we had 2 groups, medical groups, doctor groups, primary care doctor groups, covering 2,500 doctors that both said if this was available, they would bid on it tomorrow because this is what they want to do. We had one doctor, basically the heads of group, said he was going to quit medicine. And he was quitting medicine for one reason. He wasn't being able to practice medicine anymore because the sheer volume of patients that they needed to see made it impossible for him to really feel like he was holding up his end of the bargain as far as providing health care. So, what Christie's talking about is cost shift. And you don't want to cost shift, and you don't want to restrict health care, because at the end of the day, it creates those chronic illnesses, and it takes that much, it costs that much more later. I remember the Fram commercials, the air filter commercials. You used to say, pay me now, pay me later. If you manage health care, you'll reduce your costs long term. So Christie's whole focus is fee for service, and just cost shifting, raise deductibles, because deductibles are a deterrent from going to the doctor. Deductible is they want to deter you from going to the doctor. That was the mindset of insurance companies. The more we deter you, the less you'll go. Well, now we're spending 84 cents of every dollar on chronic diseases. because people don't get the care and they don't manage their health care as they should. So our goal, and I got the unions, which, believe me, I've had legendary battles with the unions, and I'm a labor guy. They all stood with me when we announced this because they believe in this concept too. We can bring healthcare costs down in this state and in this country. It's worked in the private sector. And really, it's more prevalent in the private sector right now than the public sector, where employers want to provide good health care to their employees. And by ensuring that they get health care instead of just cost shifting onto the workers, the beauty for the workers under this plan is there's no out-of-pocket. So a worker's not going to pay any deductibles. They're going to go get health care. And, that's a big savings. Plus, when we did the benefit reforms, the governor and I negotiated an agreement that requires up to 35% of the premium to be paid for by the worker. Well, the workers' wages aren't keeping up with the increases in health care. So by trying to control premium increases, and New Jersey is special in so many ways, and health care is another one of them, where around the country health care is going up about 4%. New Jersey, it's going up 8%. I've heard anywhere from, like 5 to 10,
Yeah,
4
I
to
think
8.
ours went up 9%
We're well aware of
last
that.
year.
Well,
Yeah.
but see, that's the point. So if you can control costs but not sacrifice health care, because the health care component is critical. You want your people to get the health care they need, because a healthier workforce is a more productive workforce, and it's going to pay, you're going to pay dividends in the long run. So it's not that complicated a process. It's actually a very simple process where you go back and let doctors be doctors. And you put doctors on salaries. They said, well, we have a hard time getting doctors to do this. You pay a doctor, a primary care physician, $250,000 a year. And he will share in a bonus if their outcomes are, if they show, and they can measure this, and they have measurable improvements in their patients, there's even more money for primary care doctors. And primary care doctors, we have a problem right now. We have a shortage in New Jersey of primary care doctors because they don't make any money. And the way they have to practice medicine now, so it's such a simple concept. It's like why haven't we done it sooner? But the focus has been so much on just keeping people from healthcare, without looking at the long-term issues that are created by keeping healthcare away from people.
Are there places in the country where this is,
Vermont.
is
Vermont.
it statewide or is it?
Statewide. What Vermont did is they did a 2-year pilot, and after the 2 years they saw the savings and they did it statewide. What we wanted to do is create a significant enough size pilot, 60,000 patients, 20 in the north, 20 in the central, 20 in the south, and all voluntary. No one has to do this, but by doing this and doing it for a 3-year period, you're going to have numbers that are measurable to say this is what this does. And rather than the easiest thing to do is just to shift, but you're not looking at the long-term ramifications by keeping people from health care.
The 60,000 state employees.
Yeah, and listen, I'm looking at it from my own union. I'm the head of the Ironworkers Union in New Jersey, Delaware, and half of Pennsylvania. I'm looking at it for my own sake because we do the same thing. We make it harder to get health care, and we make it more expensive each time. Like what we do is we'll raise deductibles from $100 for an ER visit to $250 to an ER. Now if you need to go to an ER, you need to go to an ER. But if you need a doctor, you need a doctor. You don't want people not sending their kids to a doctor. They're not going to a doctor because they're now up to a $40 copay. So again, it's really a pretty simple thought process that works in the private sector that's been very effective. And I was watching TV last night, and I was actually seeing commercials for patient care centers. And if you read what it says, primary care services. So no appointments necessary. Go in and see a doctor. You're seeing this is being done around the world, and New Jersey's in the United States is late to it because, look, the insurance companies don't like this.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, do you need to have the insurance companies on board to be able to proceed with something?
No, we can work with them. Listen, they claim they do something similar, and they do, but it's fee for service. But a hybrid, what they're doing, saved, I think, $12 million in the state last year. What I'm saying is we can save at least, well, not at least, I think we can save 150 million. And that's not the end all to be all. We have healthcare costs we got to deal with, but let's start looking at it in a practical manner, trying to keep people healthier. Look, it's lifestyle changes, it's lifestyle focus, but when you engage in that relationship with your primary care doctor, you have a tendency, like I did it myself. I'm a diabetic. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I got diagnosed at 50, which is very unusual. Well, I started gaining a lot of weight because they put me on insulin. And insulin puts weight on you. And what do we have to do when you're diabetic? You got to lose weight. So I stopped taking my insulin without telling my doctor, and I started exercising more, and I lost 18 pounds just by not taking insulin. Well, you know how afraid I was to go tell my doctor what I did? Because, they become a friend. They're someone that you're trusting with your life and your children's life. And so for me, going back to a way that healthcare was provided to where they'll spend 20 minutes to a half an hour and talk to you. They'll know what's going on in your life. It's just a much better way of doing this.
If it's so simple thing, why aren't we just doing it?
Well, they are starting to do it now. Listen, it's slow like anything else. The private sector, I'm telling you, the private sector is where this was focused. And that's where it started. Private sector employers not wanting to reduce health care, because, look, health care is important. And you want to provide benefits for your employees because they're your assets. They're your employees. You can have the biggest newspaper in the world. If you don't have good employees, it don't work. So providing good health care is an incentive for a lot of people to go to work for somebody. You're starting to see this. I can tell you where I'm proud of is I am a part of organized labor. Organized labor is recognized. Instead of waiting, they're trying to find solutions to deal with healthcare costs. They're not waiting for the problem to happen for them. Look, Obamacare is coming. And the taxes that the governor spoke about, although I didn't believe him at first, are true. So we have to get underneath that cap on our premium costs. So getting organized, when we did the benefit reforms, we created 2 committees, labor management committees, like I do in my world, which is not normal in the public sector. And you have equal numbers of representatives from labor and management. And they negotiate and try to create programs to reduce costs. And there's an incentive for both sides. Well, I need one person from the management side to vote with the labor side, and we can create these 2 programs. Now, the teachers have one group, and the other group is public employees. So you'll probably have 2 plan designs. They're close but different in some ways, which is good. So you can actually measure, see which one's better. But we just need the administration to allow one of their management members to vote with the labor side. And originally, when this was announced, the administration said, we're already doing it. It's not true, they're not doing it. I told you they're doing a hybrid of it, but it's still fee-for-service. We're getting away from fee-for-service with this. And 2, they said it would cost money. It won't cost anything. And we can prove that because it's been done in Vermont. That's a government. And it's been done in the private sector to show reduced costs. So we're trying to promote awareness to try to create the public awareness to let's start looking at healthcare a little bit differently. Just don't demonize your workers. You're only as good as your employees to start with. So let's provide a new way of providing healthcare that doesn't have to cost them more. And again, this is a piece of it. There's more things we have to do. Like the healthcare boards, changed some pharmaceutical model plans, saved over $100 million. Voluntarily to the table to find savings. So we don't have to sacrifice care to reduce cost.
Is there legislation needed to?
No, that's the beauty of it.
Right.
That's why we created these labor management boards, was to get this stuff away from the legislature, because it's not where it belongs. Where your employees, when your employees can elect your employer, that is a very bad formula. And that's what not doomed, but really damaged the pension system here. You know, everybody wants to talk about how the state didn't make their payments, but no one wants to talk about that they legislated changes to the pension system that basically broke the pension system. And I do this for a living. You know, there's nothing in life free. You know what I mean? There's no free rides. You want more in retirement, you normally save more. You know, and but what they did was it started with Governor Florio. And I thought Florio was, his hands were clean, but they weren't. He raised the assumption rate on pensions to 8.75%, which when the assumption rate is what you assume your investments are going to make each year. Well, they were assuming 8.75. That's not possible. So, but that created a number that made things work, you know, because you're making those assumptions. Then Whitman bonds the pension, and the teachers and the public employees, the ones that have the biggest problems with their pensions right now, and this is the beauty of this, they go along with it by doing the bonding, they get to reduce their contribution 40%, from 5.5 to 3.5. Then they lower the retirement age by 5 years. Now, there's a 99% guarantee you're collecting those 5 years. You know what I mean? So that changes. You know, you can do that. It just costs you money to do it. They did it with no money. All on paper. You know what I mean? The bonding. And then in 2001, they got the legislature, Democrats and Republicans both, to vote for a 9% increase on everyone's pension, including all the existing retirees. So there's 800,000 people that you gave a 9% increase to with no money. Now, I got to the legislature in 2002. I'm a labor guy. I'm a very proud union person, too. And if you look at the labor laws since 2002, you'll see my name on a whole bunch of them. I sat down with the unions and I said, you have a problem with your pensions. And they basically told me to mind my own business. And, you know, I was, and the workers are paying more, and they are. The cops are paying 10%, and that's why their pensions are in the high 70s. There's not an issue. The public employees are paying, the teachers are paying 7.5, I think now. So everyone's paying more. Plus, they're paying thousands of dollars for health care that they never paid before. That was on top of it. You have to make your payment. You have to make an effort to make your payment. He just said, I can't make it, and I'm not going to do it. That's not how you work. If you make an agreement, you live by the agreement. And the Chapter 78 language, we knew you could not do this. We listened to the courts. The court said if you want to guarantee payment, then make it a contractual right. And we listened to exactly what the court said. We wrote the language exactly the way the courts, basically related to us. So we knew we were going to win. Something people forget too is back in 2011 when we did the benefit reforms, I passed in the Senate a constitutional amendment to mandate the pension payment. We did. The unions went to the assembly and killed it. I bet you they wish they didn't do that. But they did it because they thought I was trying to hurt them when I was just trying to fix it.
How much would funding pensions quarterly save?
You would probably make a couple $100 million more in interest. And here's the other piece that I forgot is, and I do this with my pensions. I have 2 pension funds that I'm the co-chair of. Last year I made 22% in one and 24% in the other. They're $360 to $70 million pension funds. We're talking $80 billion. And what we did was 14.9. How come I could do so much better? The national average was, I think, 18. So, look, that's the average. That's the benchmark. No one should be satisfied with hitting the average. You know what 3% on $80 billion is? Hundreds of millions of dollars. So the point is, there's things that could be done to really shrink that hole, and then the hole gets bigger. Like I said, when I started in '06, it was really labor's fault because they fought over it instead of addressing it. Now in 11, we fought over it again, but we fixed it. But the governor just can't walk away and throw his hands up. And the real problem, so you know what, the governor has been so successful in getting people to focus at the benefits. They're too expensive. How about focusing on the economy that he hasn't grown? You know, and I know this, but no one wanted to hear it. And then Corzine stands on the steps of the State House with the head of the AFL-CIO, who's a dear friend of mine. I'm going to fight for your contract. I'm like, this is insane. I'm trying to save the pensions of people. And again, even in 2006, the correction would have been so easy. But we don't do it. We wait till 2011. The hole's enormous and growing faster and faster as we sit. So, it's, not that I told you so, but I told you so. And I wasn't see, I was portrayed as a villain when I'm just a labor person that cared about the retirements, and I understood it. That's why, when we talk about his pension committee, has taken some of my ideas, and some of the unions like the ideas about managing their own pensions, just like healthcare. Get it away from government so that they'll manage it. Pensions, get it away from government so if your assumption rate doesn't hit the way you want it to hit, they will have to make it. They just don't come back to the parent and say, give me more money.